Hello, everyone. My name is Yuri Martinez. I'm the Channel Success Manager here at Greenlink Networks, and I've brought along with me Giovanni Rodriguez.
Hello, everyone.
Now, Giovanni, I've been seeing in news headlines, right, especially for those of you paying attention to the telecom news headlines, that there's almost a doomsday in the horizon for traditional analog lines. I'd love for you to talk to us a little bit more about that, maybe demystify that scenario. But before we do, just to kind of give you a background on that, right, we're talking about what's also commonly referred to as POTS lines or plain no telephone service, copper, again, analog, or maybe even just phone lines by some of your customers. But again, Giovanni, I'm seeing a lot of really negative press towards maybe what feels like a hard cutoff. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it does feel, if you read the news, it does feels like, August 2nd, 2022, analog lines will be turned off and, nobody will be able to fax or do all the things that people do with these fax lines. So we wanted to, put together this video to provide a little light, shed a little light on what's actually going on. So I'll give you a little background. So back in the 90s, there was a monopoly in terms of all the big companies, holding on to everything telecommunications. So an order or law was passed so that way that was demonopolized, and that gave an opportunity for small players to be able to come in and have a piece of the pie. Big companies provided discounts in terms of minutes and things like that. And at that point, they anticipated that the technology was going to evolve to make that mandate irrelevant, right? So that there was a deadline for and part of that was forcing these big telecommunication companies to maintain the old POTS network, right? Um, in order to keep things running. So that deadline, has 3 years ago, they said it was going to happen, and the deadline is August 2nd, 2022. And it's not the end, these analog lines are not going to be turned off, but what will happen is the beginning of the end. So there's some truth to the news, because if the big companies are no longer required to maintain this infrastructure, they're going to start migrating little by little to the more digital world, the VoIP world, because it's expensive not only for the carriers to maintain this infrastructure, but it's also expensive for the consumer or the business. So there is some truth that it is, cheaper, more cost effective, with more bells and whistles and features to go to the VoIP world. So what I would say is, you don't have to rush and feel, forced to migrate. Contemplate and look at the reason why the companies and the carriers are moving to this technology, and figure out if it's the right technology for you, and if you want to move, make the switch ahead of time, not wait until the product's been discontinued. But there's some facts that you should really be looking at as a business, to migrate away from analog lines ahead of time.
That's a great point, and I would say that's probably the takeaway here, right? Is giving yourself enough time, giving your customers enough time to really consider what options they have and get ahead of this a little bit, at least as much as they can, as those changes start to happen.
This video is not, to talk about the products and services or the answer that Greenlink has for this migration. If you're interested in learning more about what some of your options are, we have a separate video that we're going to link to this video below. We wanted to go ahead and inform about what's actually going on with the FCC and this mandate, and what your options are. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today, everyone.